What is up, folks? Solar Strike here, and today we are here to talk about the game Quake, a first-person shooter that was released on June 22nd, 1996 for MS-DOS by id Software and published by GT Interactive. The successor to id Software's own Doom series, it pushed new technological boundaries such as a fully 3D engine, a horror-oriented ambient soundtrack, a unique style of visuals and level design, and an avid community of multiplayer deathmatch. It was a major breakthrough for id Software and the rest of the industry, and continues to remain popular to this day. With over 1 million copies sold by the turn of the millennium, this great success, however, came with great hours of man-hours, creative conflict, and eventually key terminations within id Software that would set the company in new directions. But what happened and what made Quake so appealing? Let's find out as we dig into this 1996 shooter's history and its gameplay. Development on the game began in 1990 as a concept for an RPG game known as Quake, The Fight for Justice, which would feature puzzles, animated backgrounds, complex morality systems, among other things. This was promoted in id Software's Commander Keen trilogy that same year, but was scrapped due to insufficient technological resources of that time. Fortunately, the project was picked up again shortly after the completion of Doom 2, which was released by id in October of '94. The two leads on the project, John Carmack and John Romero, worked on the technological and creative sides of the project respectively. Romero's initial plans were making the game a 3D action affair, akin to Virtua Fighter, with fighting taking place in third person. Meanwhile, the rest of the team envisioned the game as a medieval RPG, with early previews and screenshots envisioning characters and setting fitting said criteria. Unfortunately, due to developmental issues regarding the engine, as well as a more advanced network scheme, both of which Carmack was working on, the game was scaled back from these plans to more closely resemble the high-paced gameplay of Doom. Romero would be disappointed with this direction, eventually departing the company to form his own, Ion Storm, which his efforts would eventually lead to the infamous Daikatana, which was released 4 years later in 2000, but that's for another time. The sound design and ambient soundtrack, with the exception of a rocking intro track when the game first starts up, was done by 9 Inch Nails' Trent Reznor, which aimed for a more sinister vibe using synthesizers and ambient soundscapes to establish the uncanny and horrifying setting. As a result of the collaboration, the 9 Inch Nails logo is placed on some ammo boxes throughout the game. The game's soundtrack was encoded onto the CD itself as Red Book audio, which digital re-releases of the game lack without resorting to modding or downloads. After a test release of the game known as Q-Test, released by Carmack on February 24th, 1996, Quake was released as shareware on Saturday, June 22nd, 1996, with the full version releasing exactly 1 month later on July 22nd, 1996. The release came with great anticipation by PC gamers and the press alike, and despite some initial disappointment due to its similarity to id's earlier games like Doom, the game was otherwise well received by both critics and gamers due to its tight and fast-paced gameplay and its excellent multiplayer, especially online deathmatch thanks to the Quake World Online client, as well as its 3D world aspect, which demanded the power of Intel's Pentium processors, as the game had relied on its floating point precision to create the environments. By the end of the millennium, the game had reached 1 million copies sold, and due to the game's success, spawned 2 mission packs in 1997 and 2 console ports on the Sega Saturn and Nintendo 64, as well as 3 mostly unrelated sequels and 2 multiplayer spin-offs across 2 decades. The game also sold 3D accelerators, with an OpenGL version of Quake known as GL Quake being released after the game initially shipped, and later copies would come with, along with an OpenGL version of Quake World, and a Windows version was released in March 1997. Eventually, the game's source code, along with its engine, was released to the world on December 21st, 1999 for aspiring developers to take a crack at. Already being captivated by the game's excellent modding tools, Quake Mania was real, and the world had been taken by storm with its ever-popular deathmatch and gripping atmosphere, which continues to this day. So, you've heard of the development struggles and its great success from me, but what about its gameplay was so appealing? That's where I come in, playing through the game in full just to see how well this game holds up. I am playing the game using the Quake Spasm source port, which is possible thanks to the aforementioned source code release, more specifically a version known as VK Quake, which is using the Vulkan API, a successor to OpenGL, mainly for the sake of modern conveniences such as widescreen support. Let's get quaking!